Some guys are absolutely helpless. I was one of them. Helpless men need to have meetings somewhere. A place where we could get together, have a beer or six, and feel stupid. The problem is that we would not understand that this meeting is for us. Mary and I got married in our early 20s. We were together often enough to have 3 children and occasionally have fun between pregnancies. I read books that told me that I should be a good husband and remain faithful. I followed these tips. When Allison left home for college, I wondered what Mary would do. The children left home. What she did was start volunteering at the hospital. She was there 3 days a week. She worked in the gift shop some days, in the children's playroom on other days, and probably other places too. We had a good circle of friends that we had gathered while raising our children, and we still got together once a month for barbecues or parties at our houses. I was close with 3 other guys in that circle, mainly because we loved fishing. 4 or 5 times a year, we went on weekends fishing together. I thought our marriage was about the same as those around us. The children are gone, the wives are taking care of business, some are working and some are not, the husbands have gotten jobs and are waiting for retirement. When we went fishing, we talked about it. Sometimes they even talked about our relationship and sex. In May, the 4 of us went fishing. Sitting in the boat, quietly watching where my line entered the water, we spoke quietly. It started with Jack talking about his trip to Stanford to see his son. Mike was silent for a long time. I noticed this and asked, "Mike, what's on your mind? You seem to be deep in thought." "I'm not sure I want to say anything. If I'm wrong, it might hurt someone, but if I'm right, it might hurt us all." "Did you see or do something?" I asked. He hesitated. The fish weren't interrupted, so he said, "I saw your wife park behind the Hotel Marriott." "Whose wife and when?" "Your wife, 3 weeks ago, and the day before yesterday." Jack asked, "Are you saying Nick's wife is cheating on him?" "I don't know what she's doing. I know I saw her twice in a month outside the Hotel Marriott." "What were you doing at the hotel?" "Marriott?" asked Paul. Mike looked at him like he was mentally retarded. "I deliver goods there 3 times a week, at the Marriott and all the other hotels in the area." "Right. I forgot." I felt dizzy. Why was Mary at the Marriott twice in 1 month? Could she have cheated on me? I needed to go home and find out. But I didn't go home. I stayed fishing with the guys. If I left, it would mean that I believe Mary is cheating on me. When we got back to town, I took the car from Jack and drove home. When I came home, Mary was not there. I sat down at the computer, thinking about how I could find out what Mary was doing. 2 hours before she returned, I found several things on the internet that could help me. I ordered them and asked them to be delivered to my office. When Mary returned home, I decided to hit on her, but she didn't want to have sex. She cited hormones due to her age. Nothing surprising. Life for the next week was normal for Mary and me, with an underlying sense of doubt and suspicion. I searched and listened for any hints about what she might be doing. I called her at random times and everything seemed fine. The next night after the first package arrived, I was working in the garage and installed a GPS tracker on her car. From my laptop, I could track her location without notifying her. The next day, another package arrived, and I installed it in the car too. Now I could eavesdrop on all conversations in her car. The next morning, Mary was not scheduled to be at the hospital, and at breakfast she said she might go shopping. From the office, I tracked her to the mall and then to the market. By 1 o'clock, she was home shopping. At 1:40, she left the house and drove south for 10 minutes, east for 10 minutes, and then circled around until she ended up at the Marriott. I left the office and went to the Marriott. 5 minutes later, I found her car and parked so that I could remain hidden, but still be able to see her car. At 4:20, she left the hotel and went straight to her car. As she pulled into the exit, Alex White came out of the same exit and nodded to her as she passed him. Alex White, I was shocked. Alex had one of the most beautiful and pleasant wives in our circle of friends. He got into his car and drove away. I sat in the parking lot until my phone rang. "Nick, Mary, you're so short on the phone. Could you say hi? Hello. What do you want for dinner? What about you? Anything else? Something easy and healthy, salad or salmon. My thoughts were not about dinner, but about being normal so that she doesn't suspect that I know something. Fine. What time will you be home? Just after 5. Fine. See you then. She hung up. I got out of the car and walked into the Marriott. As I approached the counter, I saw the daughter of one of my clients behind the counter. I chatted with her for a couple of minutes and then asked, "One of my friends said another friend was staying here. Can you check?" "Certainly. What's his name?" Alex White." Her fingers danced across the keyboard, and after a few seconds she said, "He's in room 188, as always." As always. Every Thursday morning it checks in and leaves the next morning. He's always in room 188. Sometimes he's here on other days too, but always on Thursdays. Can a computer show how long this has been going on? The fingers danced again, and she said, "The first time was in January." "Are you going to get in trouble if you give me a printout of his record?" "No one will know that I did this. Is something going on? Let's just say he comes to town more often than his friends know." "Do you want a printout?" "Yes, please." She gave it to me in a folder Marriott. I wasn't sure what I would do with it, but I knew it would be useful. I put it in my briefcase and drove home. Mary had salmon salad ready when I arrived. We had dinner, and she told me about her shopping day. She said she was at the mall until 3 and then stopped at the market on her way home. She sat right there and lied to my face. I wondered if she had taken a shower when she got home to wash away the smell of the hotel and sex. After asking to be excused, I went to the bathroom and peed. I also checked, and the shower was wet, and there were clothes in the laundry basket. Crap. I was really angry. Why the hell is Mary having sex with Alex every week for months? She's definitely not having sex with me. We cleaned up after dinner, and she settled down on the couch with a book. My haven was behind the computer. I found Alex's wife's email address on our contact list. She had 2, one for home and one for office. I used my other email address and sent her an email to her office address. The sender address she sees will be unrecognizable. My letter to her was, "If you want to know who, when, and where Alex is cheating on you, reply to this letter. I have evidence that will be of interest to you. I don't want money." I sent him at 8:10. At 9 I checked, and her answer was already there. "I can meet tomorrow almost any time. I'm showing off the new home at 212 Oak Street, Claremont, almost all day. You can come in around 1 o'clock, and I can take a lunch break. You can come in any time the house is open, and if no one is there, we can talk." I deleted the emails, hers and mine, and went to bed. I was already asleep when Mary came to bed. In the morning, Mary was cheerful and getting ready for the day at the hospital. I got dressed and went to work as usual. At 12, I called Mary and asked, "Can I take care of dinner tonight?" "Are you going to cook?" "Is there something you'd like me to cook?" "Jambalaya." "Then this is what you'll get." I checked the GPS, and she was in the hospital. I drove past Alex's office and was just in time to see Alex and 2 other men enter the delicatessen. I parked at the curb and quickly installed another GPS tracker on his car. Then I went to a cafe and bought myself a sandwich and salad for Alex's wife. At 1 o'clock, I parked 2 houses away from the open house sign and walked there. When Helen saw me, her face went pale, and she stood up from the sofa and walked to the front door. She put up a sign for lunch until 2. Then she returned inside. We sat down on the sofa. Her eyes were full of tears, and she looked as if she would burst into tears. I was suddenly afraid of the same thing. I took out the hotel documents from my briefcase and handed them to her. She looked at them and burst into tears. In a whisper, I said, "I'm so sorry." She looked me in the face and said, "This bastard has been cheating on me for months. He's been cheating on you for at least part of this time with my wife, Mary." "I'm really sorry." She fell silent, blew her nose, and then said, "He got it. This document does not prove anything. We need real evidence. We also need to be fully prepared for what we will do once we have the evidence." Right, sometimes I am impulsive and explode. We need a plan. After an hour, Helen removed the lunch sign, and we continued talking until almost 4. No one came to the open house. We had a plan when I left. That night, I searched online for a conference in Las Vegas for people in my field and another conference for realtors. I sent Helen the information, and she replied that we should go. I made a reservation and told Mary. I told her about the conference and how I thought I could make useful contacts. I asked if she wanted to go. She said that she wanted to think about it and would give an answer in the morning. Helen waited until Alex came home to tell him about the conference she wanted to attend. She also invited him to go. He couldn't go. Too much work. Mary called me at work and told me she just didn't feel ready for the 3-day, overnight trip to Vegas and the long drive. Instead, she thought about visiting her sister. I pretended to be upset. They didn't talk about the trip anymore. The next day, in my office, I called Henry Hawkins, my lawyer. In fact, he is the lawyer for my business. I asked him if he had a professional or personal relationship with Mary. We then discussed the possible consequences of divorce. I took notes in a file on the computer. I talked to him about the family assets and how they would be divided. I asked how I could protect myself from being deceived in the process. He launched a plan to protect me and my assets. He also hired someone to obtain evidence that they were having an affair. At 4 o'clock, my phone rang. It was Helen calling from a payphone. She booked a room at the Mirage Hotel. I was in Treasure Island. She talked about what she needed to take with her. I told her to bring a laptop, a personal notebook, and a cell phone that she could use from Vegas without breaking the bank. That night, I packed my things. Mary came in as I was finishing and looked at my suitcase. "You forgot your bathing suit." "I'm not going on vacation. Swimming can help you relax." I packed my bathing suit. She didn't say anything else. When I finished packing, I put the suitcase in the trunk of my car and, after the usual evening ritual, went to bed. I invited Mary to join me in bed before the trip, but she was a little tired. "Maybe when you get back," she said, smiling. Before dawn, I got up and went. My cell phone rang at 7:30, and I answered. It was Helen. "Where are you?" "Almost in Pomona. There's a Denny's where we go to the fair, remember?" "Yes, it's about 2 miles ahead." "Move over, and I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. Fine?" "Certainly. I am hungry. Would you like me to order for you?" "No, I'll wait. Start eating yourself." I pulled off the freeway and parked at Denny's. A few minutes later, Helen came in. She was wearing jeans and a loose cowboy shirt with cowboy boots. Not at all what I expected. She smiled and sat down with me. The waitress immediately came over and left her the menu and coffee. She came back, and we both ordered. I continued to look at Helen as if she were a woman I barely knew. Even at parties, she usually dressed as if she was getting ready or had just returned from an open house. After we ate, Helen said how much she hated the thought of the long drive to Las Vegas alone. I told her to follow me. I have an idea. She agreed and followed me to the nearest parking lot. At the entrance, I asked how much it would cost to park for 3 days. It was inexpensive, so I stopped by, and so did Helen. I parked, and she parked next to me. I loaded her things into my car, and we left her car there. None of us needed to go alone. We discussed strategies for 3.5 hours. I drove the car, and she took notes. In Baker, we filled up the car and took a short break. We became friends because our spouses cheated on us. Now we are becoming friends. I liked her. I liked her for many years without really knowing her. We laughed sometimes we were sad, and we had a good time together along the way. In Las Vegas, I dropped her off at her hotel and went to mine. We agreed on a time and place to meet for dinner. In my room, I called my lawyer, and he laughed. "You can come back now. Your wife went to his house. We have a video. "You are free." On the table next to them was a Time magazine with today's date on it. "Start the procedure then. Should his wife call you?" "It's funny, but she already called. With your total costs, I will save you both a lot of money." "Thank you. Can I ask a hypothetical question?" "Certainly. What will happen to this case if Helen and I start dating while we're in Vegas?" "Unless you or Alex are being followed, nothing. Scatter things across both rooms. Do you want her or him to be served with documents before you return?" "No, I want to be home changing the locks before she gets the papers. Get a restraining order banning her from my business and home if possible." "When do you want it ready?" "I'll discuss this with Helen and get back to you." An hour later, I entered Caesar's Palace and found the restaurant Helen had chosen. We sat down and ate. I used my cell phone and called our lawyer. "Wait to act until we return. Let your man get some more evidence while we're gone. It's better to have a mountain of evidence than a little." When I hung up, we paid the bill and walked around the shopping area together. We never touched each other. I wanted to. The image of Mary with Alex kept popping into my mind. Helen said she was tired, so we walked to a taxi and she went back to her hotel. Right before she got into the taxi, I saw and felt that she wanted to kiss me. I wanted to too, but we didn't do it. Half an hour later, I entered my room and the phone rang. It was Mary. "Late. Where have you been?" "I had dinner at Caesar's Palace and took a walk afterwards. I've seen sexy clothes that would make you look good. Do you want me to buy them for you?" "Sexy clothes? You know that I almost never dress sexy. I'm almost 50, for God's sake." "So that's a no?" "It's a no. But if you find a nice piece of jewelry, that would be nice." "Fine. I'll take a look at it tomorrow. Now I turn off my mobile phone and go to bed. Good night, Mary. I love you." Good night. She didn't say she loved me. I showered and shaved in preparation for bed. I sat on the bed to turn off my cell phone for the night when it rang. "Hello. Open the door." I opened the door and Helen came in and closed the door behind her. I stood there in a towel and she was still in jeans and a cowboy shirt. "Alex is at home. He doesn't care at all about my absence. He's with your wife in my bed." I thought about this in the taxi to my hotel. I got to my room, called the front desk, and asked not to disturb me at night, ruffled the bed, and came here. She smiled. Aboutna said, "At first I wanted to sleep with you because they cheated on us. No more. Alex ended our marriage. I can get over it and spend a year or two feeling sad and depressed, feeling sorry for myself and playing sacrificial songs on the radio. Or I can go back to living the way I love. I want you in bed, but please don't have sex with me." "No. No. Unite with me, love me, let's enjoy each other, but please don't have sex with me." Almost at noon, we got up. We showered, got dressed, and went to Helen's room. She needed to change clothes. While she was changing clothes, I called our lawyer. He told us that Alex and Mary spent the night in Mary's bed, and the photographer took pictures. I thanked him and said that would be enough. Helen and I got into my car and drove to Lake Mead. We talked a lot. Our thoughts and words were angry, then sad, then painful, and by the time we were in Kingman, Arizona, I was just sad. Our conversation led me to the idea that Mary and I stopped loving and caring for each other quite a long time ago. We both loved our children, but not each other. Helen came to the same conclusion about her relationship with Alex. We stayed in Kingman long enough to have dinner and headed back to Las Vegas. Time passed without us noticing it. We talked about our lives. We talked about what we want for the next few years. We talked about how our children would feel about our divorces. Back at my hotel, I packed my suitcase and put it in the car. I checked out of the hotel and moved into Helen's room. We made love, and she cried while we did it. My John Wayne mask kept me from crying, but I came close. It was more than sex. We went home. When we got to the lot where Helen's car was parked, she asked, "What now?" "I think so too." I don't want to sleep in the same bed with Alex. I want you. Let's change seats. She sat down, looked at me like I was crazy, and said, "What? I want to wake up with you. You just said you want me. It's obvious that Alex and Mary want each other. Let's make this a reality." Seriously. Certainly. Then we won't need to feel angry, lonely, resentful, or anything like that. They get what they want, and I win. Will you win? Waking up every morning with you is a victory. Living with you is a victory. What if Alex is just having fun with Mary and doesn't really want her? Then they will get exactly what they deserve, nothing. Losing two good people, their homes, their families. A little more honesty would be better. I need to think. Fine. Drive to my office, and I'll meet you there. Is this enough time to think? Let me be clear. You want us to live together. You want all four of them to get divorced, right? Helen, all four of us are getting divorced. The day after the divorce becomes final, I want to marry you. Will you marry me? Too soon. We barely know each other. Nonsense. We have known each other for many years. We have only recently become available to think about love. I can make a commitment to love you right now. I love you. Nick. Think about this as you drive to my office. Be careful. Be safe. I opened her car door and kissed her. The kiss contained many promises that I was ready to fulfill. As she drove away, I wondered if she would come to my office, if she would say yes, and where I would sleep that night. Helen was standing next to the car when I pulled into the parking lot. When I parked, she opened my door and somehow managed to sit between my stomach and the steering wheel. Yes, yes, I love you. Yes, I want to wake up with you every morning. Yes, I will marry you. She paused and filled the time with kisses. What do we do next? We need to talk to our spouses. Let me check the GPS and see where they are now. Both trackers showed that they were at Helen's house. Sit down. Let's go to your house. 10 minutes later, we arrived at the house, following Mary's car. We quietly entered through the back door. We walked through the house until we saw them on the living room floor. I pointed Helen to the sofa, and we sat down next to each other. Helen didn't look. Mary stood up from the couch, and when she did, Alex saw us. "Oh my God," he shouted. Mary turned around and saw us. She froze. I said, "Perhaps you should take a few minutes to clean yourself up and get dressed." "Oh my God, Nick, I am so sorry. We didn't want this to happen," Mary said through tears. The eyes were full of tears. "We'll talk when you get cleaned up and dressed." "Go," I said. They jumped up and left. We gathered their clothes, and I took them to the bathroom. When the sounds told me they were in the shower, I quietly opened the door and put the clothes inside. When I returned to the living room, I saw Helen cleaning a stain on the carpet. "You choose," I said. "What? What kind of house will we live in? Do you want to live here or in my house?" "Why should I choose?" "Because they are violators. They cheated. We choose." Before she could respond, Alex and Mary entered the room. I pointed to the other sofa, and they sat down at the edges. Helen stopped cleaning the spot and came and sat next to me. Alex began to speak. Helen raised her hand. He fell silent. She looked at me. I asked, "Alex, do you love my wife, or is this just sex?" He looked down for a long time, then at Mary and said, "I think I love her." "Mary, do you love Alex?" Her answer was faster. "Yes." "If you weren't married to us, would you be living together?" Alex said, "I don't want a divorce." Do you want my permission to continue sleeping with my wife? What do you want, Alex? I wanted you to never know what we were doing. I didn't want anyone to get hurt. I don't want my marriage to end. "Alex, would you be okay if I had an affair?" Helen asked. Her voice was cold and controlled, but everyone heard the acid. "No. You are my wife." His eyes widened at Helen. "Alex, would you be okay with me having sex with Helen right here on your living room carpet?" "No, I mean, it doesn't have to be like this. Wait, are you sleeping with my wife? No, I never slept with Helen. Wouldn't it be fair if we had sex and you both watched? Then you would have an idea of what an emotional shock it was for us when we found out about the betrayal. Nick, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you, Mary said through the handkerchief she held to her face. You hurt me. The evidence shows that you planned and visited the Marriott at least 20 times to have sex with someone else's spouse. Alex, you have 5 minutes to pack your suitcase. You should be out the door in 6 minutes. You can negotiate through my lawyer for the return of the rest of your property. Helen looked at her watch. Alex didn't move. Mary, I'm coming home when I leave here. When you arrive, you will have 5 minutes to pack your things and leave. You can negotiate through my lawyer for the return of the remaining property. If any of you come to your homes without the consent of a lawyer, I will send photos to everyone we know, including children. 4 minutes, Helen said. Alex jumped up and disappeared into the bedroom. Helen counted down the time. When she said, 1 minute, I stood up and walked to the bedroom door. You don't want to be in the house when time runs out, I shouted. Alex closed the suitcase and ran away. He didn't say anything to Helen or Mary. Mary, go out the door. Helen, lock the house when we leave. If Alex comes back, call me and the pictures will be on the internet before he comes into the house. Be careful. I don't know what Alex is going to do. I followed Mary to her car and she followed mine to our house. I opened the door and waited for her. She cried. Inside, she sat down in the kitchen and sobbed. I'm sorry, Nick. Fine. You should be sorry. You started sleeping with Alex in January and stopped having sex with me. Am I a bad lover? Have you hated sex with me for 22 years? No, I just felt so wanted and needed by Alex. You do not need me. The children don't need me. You can and do everything here. Alex said he needed me. He didn't even say goodbye when he left the house. He doesn't want a divorce. It means he doesn't want you. You were just convenient for him. Do you know what that makes you? She looked at me and I answered my question. A woman who has sex the way you do is a woman of easy eating. An immoral woman who will end up alone. I hope he was very good. It costs you your marriage, your home, your future with me, and possibly your children. Mary sat on a chair and sobbed. I took Diet Coke out of the refrigerator and sat down across from her. When she stopped crying, I looked at my watch and said, You have 5 minutes, just like I promised. Time has passed. I set the timer on the stove and said, When it goes off, you won't be here. There were 20 seconds left when the door closed behind her. I watched as she loaded 2 suitcases into the car and drove off. I saw Alex's car following her. In my office, I turned on the security monitor and saw that they were both stopped 2 blocks away from me. I turned on the audio monitor and heard the car door opening and the sounds of Alex getting in. Mary was crying. They really won't screw us over, Alex said. Yes, they will divorce me. There is no chance that he will take me back. He called me a woman of easy virtue. I am a woman of easy virtue. I was a good married woman, and now I am a woman of easy virtue. I'm your woman of easy virtue. You did this to me. What will you do? You see, you don't even ask what we will do. We got caught cheating, and now you're leaving me. You bastard. If I could send photos to your children and not mine, I would. She was sobbing, and a few minutes later, I heard the car door open and close again. I heard muffled sounds of the engine, then the car drove away. I turned off the audio. My tissue box was empty. I was angry and hurt, but I still hated that Mary was suffering so much. I found a set of locks in the garage that I had purchased years ago, but never installed. I installed them and Mary's keys no longer fit into my house. I called Helen. How are you? I asked. It was painful. Will you come here? Yes. When Mary left, Alex met and talked to her. He left her. Now he is on his way to your house. I'm leaving here, so I'll be with you in 10 minutes. Call my cell phone if he comes to the house. Fine. Yes, Alex turned out to be a bigger bastard than I thought. Did he just leave her? He wants you and he wants sex. Mary was just entertainment for him. Bastard, he won't come back into my life. Not now and not ever. Sit still. I will be right back. I love you. I love you too. The phone went silent. I drove by the rules and stopped at Helen's house. Alex's car was parked at the curb. He stood on the porch and talked. When I closed the car door, he stopped and turned to me. Let me talk to Helen. She is my wife. No, she was your wife. You heard me tell you not to come back, and here you are. Remember what I said I would do? Do not do that. I just want to talk to her. Too late. When I saw you here, I sent photos. I had over 100 photographs. I sent some to your kids, some to our friends, some to the newspaper. Your face is visible in all the photographs. Talking to Helen won't save your marriage. You will be served with divorce papers on Monday. Congratulations. You wanted good sex, and you got much more than you bargained for. Alex turned to me and did not notice how a police car quietly drove up and parked 2 houses away from us. I have seen. I stood calmly and in a relaxed position. Alex came down from the porch and rushed at me. 2 policemen grabbed him. I'll kill you, he shouted. As quickly as possible, Alex was handcuffed and placed in the back of the car. Helen came out and we spoke to the police for a few minutes. Alex shouted threats from the car. When the police left, we went inside. Did you really send the photos? No, it wouldn't just hurt Alex. My children are coming over next weekend for their mother's birthday. If they want to see pictures, I'll show them. I hope they don't want to see. I don't want our children to see this. Part of me wanted to open the door. Is it true? Why didn't you open it? When I listened to him, he told me how alone I would be. He talked about how much I needed him. He talked about how important he was. Nothing about how much he loves me, how much he needs me, or even how much he loves children. The part of me that wanted to open the door was the part that wanted to believe that I could fix him. You didn't open the door. No, I saw your car and realized that Alex was wrong. Over the past 4 days, I have realized something. I won't be alone. I don't need him. There is someone who loves me and loves to love me. There is someone who has loved my children for many years. You were their soccer coach, not Alex. You were with us on camping trips. You replaced the water heater when it leaked. I stood at the door, and when I realized that Alex was angry, I called the police. I talked to them and explained what was happening. I told them he could become violent. I saw them pull up from the front. I was afraid he would hurt you. He hurt. I wonder if you could kiss my wound and make me feel better. Oh, what a good idea. Maybe we should go to the bedroom so I can put you to bed. We hugged and went to the bedroom. The room was not what I expected. There was no bed linen, no rugs on the floor. The room was almost empty. I threw away a lot of what was here. This is no longer Alex and Helen's bedroom. We can buy beautiful things to make it our bedroom. There's no rush. As long as you're in bed with me, this is our bedroom. Should I bring my things tonight or wait until the morning? Do not rush. I suspect you won't need the things until later tomorrow. She smiled. I turned off the light and we fell asleep. Some time after sunrise, my cell phone rang. Helen's cell phone rang at the same time. Helen answered from her bed. I went out into the corridor and picked up the phone. This is Nick. Dad, what's going on? It was Todd, my eldest son. What do you mean? I called my mom this morning and asked about our visit this coming weekend. She burst into tears and said to call you. She hung up and now doesn't answer. How quickly can you all get home? We can be there tonight if necessary. What's happening? I won't tell you over the phone. Call me back and tell me how you get there. If you arrive, I will meet you at the airport. If you go by car, let me know what time you will be home. You won't tell me over the phone, right? No. Sorry to keep you waiting, but I think it's better this way. When I hung up, I looked into the bedroom and saw that Helen had turned pale and was still talking on the phone. She saw me and motioned for me to come into the room. She said into the phone, "Honey, wait a second." She covered the phone and whispered, "This is Carol. Her dad called her from prison last night. He asked her to help with bail. She wants to know what's going on. Ask how soon they can come home. You need a family meeting, and soon. My children will be home tonight. We can meet at my house and tell everyone at once. Alex will still be in prison. I have no idea where Mary is." She picked up the phone again and told her daughter that she needed to come and bring her brother with her. They'll call when they're on their way. She told them to go to my house because we would be holding a meeting there. Carol had 100 questions, and Helen said they would all be answered when we were together. I called our lawyer and asked him to bring the photographs. I told him about the attack and our plans for the future. He agreed with our plan and said he would bring the photos in person. We got dressed and went about our business. I bought packing boxes and packed Alex's things, stacking the boxes in the garage. Helen found a spare key for his car, and we parked it in the garage. We forwarded all calls from Helen's phone to my number and then went to my house. Inside, I started packing my things. Helen walked around the house and came to me several times with questions. "Do you want the recliner to move into our house, or should we leave it here? Will it fit in your home? Its color works well for a family room. Alex's chair is leaving. Let's take it." When the phone rang, I looked at the ID and handed the phone to Helen. It was Carol, who was on her way and said she would get there in an hour. She remembered how to get to my house and thanked me for calling. 5 minutes later, the phone rang again, and it was my kids. They were all in the same car and would arrive in an hour. Helen decided to have pizza and salad delivered and placed her order. I finished packing my clothes and some other things. I needed something to do. I walked out of the bedroom and saw Helen standing by the window. I walked up to her and hugged her. There will be tears and anger. Even if they seem angry with us, they are not. Disappointment, pain, and betrayal mixed together. Remind yourself that we didn't do anything wrong and that I love you. I couldn't cope without you. No, you could and would have managed it. I hope my presence makes it a little easier. She turned to kiss me just as my daughter's car pulled into the driveway. We noticed that the pizzas were delivered at the same time. "I'll set the table," Helen said, and ran to the kitchen. I opened the front door. My son, Todd, helped carry the food inside, and I paid the delivery guy. He looked around and saw Helen, but not his mother. "Where is Mom?" "Don't know." Helen's children arrived, and I let them in. They started asking questions. I raised my hand, and when everyone was silent, I said, "The food won't get cold. Let's all sit down in the living room, and we'll explain everything." All of Helen's children sat on one sofa, and mine sat on the other. I showed Helen to a large chair, and I took a chair from the kitchen. Before I could sit down, there was a knock on the door. It was Henry Hawkins, my lawyer. He handed me a thick envelope, noticed all the children in the living room, and whispered, "Good luck. Am I needed here?" "No, but thanks." I closed the door and sat down. "Instead of you all asking questions, let me tell the whole story. Then you can ask anything." "Fine." Nobody moved, so I started. "A week ago, I was playing golf with friends, and one of them mentioned that he saw Mary at the Hotel Marriott during the day. I couldn't think of a reason why it should be there. I installed a GPS tracker on her car. 2 days later, she went to the Marriott again. 3 hours later, she left, and 10 minutes later, Alex White, Helen's husband, came out of the same exit. I obtained hotel records for Alex and discovered that he has been renting the same room every few days since January. All the kids looked at each other, and Alex's son said, "That doesn't mean they cheated." Everyone nodded. "You're right. I hired someone to find out, hoping they weren't having an affair. I spoke to Helen in hopes that she knew why Alex might be at Marriott. Our lawyer advised us to leave town for a few days to find out for sure what was going on." Helen continued, "I went to the Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas, and Nick stayed at Treasure Island. The next day, when I spoke to the lawyer, he said he had pictures of Alex and Mary having sex. Carol, Helen's daughter, asked, "Are those photos in the envelope?" pointing at the envelope at my feet. Yes. Helen and I waited one more day before returning. The photographer took more photos when they came here and had sex in Helen's living room. This is so disgusting. When we got back, they were at Helen's house having sex in the living room. We walked in and saw them on the floor. We asked if they wanted a divorce so they could be together. Alex said no. Mary said yes. We gave them a few minutes to collect their personal belongings and kicked them out. I didn't see or hear Mary. Helen called me because Alex came back and threatened her on the porch. She also called the police, and when Alex attacked me and threatened us both, the police arrested him. As far as I know, he is still in prison. Questions started pouring in. Are you getting a divorce? We both nodded. Have you seen the photographs? No. We saw them having sex in your mother's living room. We don't need to look at photographs. They are for trial if necessary. Will my father go to jail? He attacked me and threatened your mother in front of 2 police officers. I think he will get time for this. Mom, how long did you know that Dad was cheating? I found out when Nick showed me the hotel records. He used our retirement money to pay for a room at the Marriott. Damn it, Carol said. Everyone nodded. What will happen next? Everything will change. I am putting this house up for sale. I don't need a big house. Mother, I don't want to move. I was thinking about getting a roommate. Mom, are you and Nick lovers? When we were in Las Vegas, we talked a lot and got to know each other. When we returned, I decided that I wanted to try living with Helen. I proposed to her. Before we discovered the affair, we had never even kissed. Now I am proud that Nick is my lover and soon-to-be husband. We hope you can accept everything you have learned. We love each and every one of you. The room was silent for a long time. Finally, Carol stood up and walked over to me. She knelt down and took the envelope. I don't want to see these photos, but I have to. I don't want to believe this story, but if the photos support it, I have to. She opened the envelope and looked inside. Her hands were shaking. She only looked at one photograph and did not take it out of the envelope. That bastard, she said, and closed the envelope. She handed it to me and said, "You should have punched him in the face." I was tempted. Helen's son walked over and took the envelope. I need to know. He took out about 10 photographs. They were all 8x10 color photographs, and each showed Mary and Alex having sex. He looked at each photo in his hands. He didn't say anything. He put all the photographs back into the envelope. We later threw out the pizza and salads. Nobody ate them. Around 9, we went to a Chinese restaurant and ate. The children have been friends all their lives. They began to get used to the idea that they would now be one family. Just before we got our cookie fortunes, my son Matt asked, "Can we go camping this summer?" Helen smiled and said, "Some of my fondest memories are from our family camping trips." I was silent for a few moments when Carol, Helen's daughter, looked at me and asked, "Can I, Dad? Can?" Tears streamed down my face. How could she accept me into her heart so quickly? How could I say no? Every one of them said it. "Can I, Dad? Can?" Certainly. Great idea. Let's take our calendars and choose a time. When we left the restaurant, our first family outing was planned. The pain was still there. The disappointment was still there. But in the foreground was a plan for a good future. This was 4 years ago. Mary never came to court, and no one saw or heard from her. The day after she spoke to the children on the phone, she took cash from the credit card and disappeared. Alex is serving a sentence of 8 years and 4 months to 15 years in prison. None of his children visited him. I never looked at the envelope. It is kept in a safe in our house. We go camping as a family once a year. Some men are helpless. Alex could have kept his house, his job, and continued sleeping with Mary. I wonder if he thinks about it. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.